Welcome to Digital Nation, your weekly smorgasbord of the best of local TV, bringing you the stories you just don't see anywhere else. This week we visit a 5-star Solent hotel for cats. We check out a football group used as therapy. We discover a brand new flying school. We go back to the future, well, back to 2015. We find out all about some special fairies and their flying machines. And we go to a ceremony to bless our beloved pets. So where first on this journey of digital discovery? We visit a 5-star cat retreat in Sway that's more than just feline friendly. It caters for a cat's every need and lets your moggy mate live in the lap of luxury. But with facilities this good, surely it's just a matter of time before dogs want their own quarters too.
Because they're used to laying on our beds at home, you know, they're used to a heated house, they're used to laying next to the radiators and being pampered. And when we went to look at catteries, they were normally quite a small area and an outside run and a small heated bit, and our cats just wouldn't like that, so we decided to do something different. Each suite is individual. They can't see the other cats. They all have their own single beds with duvets and pillows and televisions and proper human furniture, so it's not alien to them. And we ask all the cat parents to bring as much from home as possible to help the cats settle. And it's just worked really well. You can see they're all relaxed. They probably get more attention here because, you know, our sole purpose is to keep them entertained and keep them happy. So like our cats at home, you know, you're washing up and you're doing this and you're doing that. And the cats are part of that. Whereas here, it's all about the cats. So they probably get quite spoiled, I suppose. We offer a Skype Your Cat service, which works really well, and it's all treat-based, so while you're talking to your cat's getting treats, so it's a very positive experience, so no stress involved at all. We also use social media, and we send photos and messages, and I email photos, and yeah, so we keep in touch with people while they're away as well, so because everyone worries about their cats, and they miss their cats, which is, you know, it's nice to see them chilled and happy.
MRI has changed medical diagnosis and saved many lives since its application. But have you ever wondered who invented it? Well, a ceremony in Nottingham recently recognised its modest creator. Nobel Prize winner, Sir Peter Mansfield.
At the age of 15, he was told he didn't have the qualifications to become a scientist. Now, at 82, he has a knighthood and a Nobel Prize for his discoveries into magnetic resonance imaging, more commonly known as MRI. And today, Sir Peter Mansfield's been recognised as one of the city's most famous faces.
People from all walks of life still come up to me, you know, after many years and say how they were worried at the time, but now they're free of whatever illness they had, and they just like to come back occasionally and say thanks.
After receiving a PhD in physics, Peter joined the University of Nottingham, where he became a professor. And in 1991, the Sir Peter Mansfield Centre was established, where his pioneering work inspired the next generation.
In the Magnetic Resonance Centre now, we have the strongest magnet that's used for imaging people in the UK. So it's about 2.5 times stronger than the sort of magnets that are used in most hospitals. We very much tell incoming students that this technique, which has had so much impact, grew out of physics in Nottingham, in a laboratory, in the very building. MRI is an amazing technique in that it's kept improving over time. It's really, there are new things happening all the time. I think making sure people are aware of those things and that they all lead back to what Sir Peter did in the early 70s and the other things he did to really make the technique what it is today.
But a latest study from the British Medical Association shows schools in areas like Nottingham aren't pushing pupils to pursue a career in biology, chemistry or physics. But Peter says it's crucial that young people continue to develop Nottingham scientific studies.
It's essential to have a lifeline of living, interested people. This is actually a good place to come and see how it works, and at the same time realise that science plays a huge, huge part in our lives, whether we realise it or not.
Peter is convinced that with the top facilities on offer in the city, it won't be long before there are more budding scientists from right here in Notts.
Manchester Fathers Against Violence is a footballing initiative set up by an inspiring father to create an empowering and family atmosphere on local pitches to keep young players off the streets and honour his son's memory.
James Gregory set up Fathers Against Violence in Moss Side back in 2011. That's after he suffered a tragic loss.
I lost my son to youth violence in 2009 on May the 11th, and I decided I wanted to honour my son's memory by standing against violence as a father. When I was going through my trials, that I didn't have no support for me. So I needed something which could gain my voice quickly. I needed to find a voice, and this was my vehicle for me to speak.
Since the start of the first group, Fathers Against Violence has grown, and James now oversees 4 different football groups. And it's not just football. Fathers Against Violence also offers education and qualification training. James has also set up a fathers-only group and hopes to encourage and empower fathers to be positive role models in their own community.
It's just transformed the community. It's more, feels like a family than it does with being a sports club.
And it's growing every day. The group are about to enter their first football league and spirits are high.
What I like about this is that it keeps us off the street and it keeps proactive in football. Like James, he's done it well for the community. Everyone, look at us, we're like a family. When we play together, we learn together, we strive to be our best.
For James, it's been a journey to make the community safer and more secure. And he's reached a goal he set himself 4 years ago.
I've reached, for Giuseppe Gregory, 16 years old, he would have been 22 now. And my son was born on my 21st birthday. So the only way I could do that really is honour his memory. And I feel that, yeah, it's come a long way. And I'm hopeful that we can make more headways for the future.
The sky's the limit for all you budding aeronauts out there, as the first Aviation Academy in the UK is being built in Norwich. The college will train the next generation of aviation engineers, cabin crew and pilots. So it's chucks away with Mustard TV.
It's an idea finally ready for takeoff. Norwich Airport's going to become the home of the UK's first Aviation Academy. Last night, detailed finished plans were shown off for the project. It'll cost around £12 million to build, cover 13,000 square feet, and building work will start in January. So why do we need it, and why is Norwich such a good location?
The major reason for us is the future shortage of skills worldwide. If we look at figures, it's Boeing and Airbus and the Royal Aeronautical Society who predict a shortage of 150,000 jobs in the world in the next 5 years and 600,000 in the next 20. Due to growth of the market, more and more aircraft, but also due to retirements in the industry.
It's going to be built in this World War II era hangar. All the outside cladding at the moment is going to be stripped off to take it right back to its original metal structure. Then a new modern skin is going to be put over the top.
To start with, the first focus is on aviation engineering, but then there are also lots of other strands in the industry. So we'll be looking at cabin crew. So travel and tourism students at the moment do a strand of cabin crew, but we could look at full cabin crew courses and airport operations. So all of the groundworks that go on at the airports around the world, all of those strands will be there too, right up to pilots eventually.
So after 3 years of planning, the first students could be stepping through the doors of Norwich's Aviation Academy from next September.
The Red Road Flats in Glasgow were an iconic 60s high-rise development that didn't quite live up to the designers' expectations. In this clip documenting their demolition, the local MSP tells us about the lessons to be learned from trying to house young families in the clouds.
I moved into Red Road with my family when I was about 8, when the flats first opened, and we were there for about 11 years and never actually went back. It people that we lived with, many of whom I'm still in contact with and still friends with to this day. And over this weekend, because of the demolition, we've all been in touch with one another about where we're going to be to watch it and what our feelings are.
I think they were missed in the sense that they were such an iconic part of Glasgow's history. But, you know, something needs to be done with it. It's been empty for a long time and it's probably time for a change.
Oh, I miss my view, something terrible. Yeah, I miss the view as well. I miss the lights going on in Georgie Square and the fireworks going off.
At the time when we moved in, we moved from a room and kitchen in Maryhill to a 3-bedroom flat with all the modern amenities you had in the 1960s. So it was a huge improvement in the way that people lived, and there was so much hope when people moved there. It was all young families, and you know, people tried very, very hard to make it work. Unfortunately, it didn't for many of us. I'm delighted that GHA and the City Council have begun to consult on what happens now with the site. It will take at least 2 years to clear the site of all the rubble, but that gives us the opportunity to talk to local people in depth and to find out what they want to see happen there. And clearly that's a good thing, because when I moved to the flats there was one small shop for 4,000 people at the beginning. Shops and facilities seem to have been an afterthought. This time around we must learn those lessons, and that must not be the case.
Oh, here we go. Oh, you missed it. I didn't, I saw it.
That's it for part 1. But before we leave you, it's quiz time. In which city is the tallest freestanding clock tower in the world? Is it A, Blackpool, B, Liverpool, or C, Birmingham? Join us after the break for the answer. Welcome back to Digital Nation. Before the break we asked you, in which city is the tallest freestanding clock tower in the world? And the answer is C, Birmingham. Standing at around 100 metres tall, the Joseph Chamberlain Memorial Clock Tower is located in the University of Birmingham. ...2015 marked a seminal moment in movie history, as it became the calendar year that was featured in the box office smash hit Back to the Future. Now, we haven't quite nailed flying cars yet, but what have we achieved? Well, who better than a scientist to help Cambridge TV find out?
This man has come from the past. Just like the rest of us, really. Steve Pellegrini grew up watching Back to the Future and enjoyed it so much he bought the car that took Doc and Marty through time, the DeLorean.
I've never been much of a car person, but I remember just sort of seeing it coming back off the Doc's truck at the start of the first film, and just thinking, that's the coolest car ever, and I'm going to have one of those. Whiz forward 30-odd years, and sort of good 5 or 6 years of saving and looking for one, I've got one. To drive, it looks really sporty, it's not particularly fast after a bit. It's more of a Grand Tourer, I suppose you could describe it. It's probably held up better than most of other 80s sports cars and stuff, but the other thing is that it's quite a wide car. Steering's on the wrong side, obviously. No power steering, so getting into spaces can be a bit tricky and stuff. But apart from that, it's actually quite comfortable.
But what else did the film get right and wrong?
I think one of the most interesting things is, of course, computer technology. In the film, you've got people reading from tablets, such as this one, although this one is a couple of years old, so, whoa, that is heavy. You don't always want to carry it around, so what we often use are mobile phones to do exactly the same thing. I think that's kind of really interesting that in science fiction we kind of know where we're going to end up, but we're not entirely sure which modern-day technology is going to evolve into it. We always thought it was going to be computers that were going to go that way. It turned out it was mobile phones. In the same way, you've got hovering cars in Back to the Future 2. That doesn't really look like it's on the cards at the moment, but drones are a really, really big thing that's coming forward. Possibly in the future, we're not going to have flying cars, but we might have manned drones.
The film certainly played a role in inspiring John's double tie look. as well as a few other things.
Well, I think everyone has been inspired after watching the film to try and have a go making a hoverboard. I know that a lot of different scientists have as well. In China, in fact, if you want to go from Shanghai to Shanghai Airport, you go on a magnetically levitated train. Although I have to admit, here at the Science Centre, we have also had our own go at it, and I think you will agree that this, not the DeLorean, is the future of transport.
Latest TV meets designer Samantha Bryan, who makes the tiny winged wonders. Fairies, as you might not have seen them before.
I went to Air Cadets and was determined I was going to be a lady pilot and it'd all be fine, because if you just worked really hard, you could be a pilot. But then I realised quite quickly that I wasn't even tall enough to sit in a jet, so eventually I left Air Cadets. I think the desire to fly probably didn't leave. It began back when I was at university, so I went to Hereford and studied a BA honours degree in design crafts. I started playing around with characters there, and it wasn't a conscious decision to make fairies particularly. It was in response to a brief, and so I made one very traditional gold with a skirt and really ornate wings. And there was just something about that character that then led me to work through a process of discovering what fairies could be, what they could look like. And so I started looking at bugs and beetle bums, and I think that's where the fat-bottomed fairy comes from there. So that's where they started, and then I happened upon a book of Victorian gadgetry and invention in the library whilst I was there, and just found myself sitting and laughing. It was just so humorous, and I seemed to start to pull the two influences together, so looking at characters but also looking at the inventions and the humour that surrounds the fact that they're so ridiculous, so old-fashioned, or just a bit of a silly idea. And there's that similar humour that goes with the fact that I'm inventing gadgets and contraptions for fairies. So I've developed a species of fairies. I spend my time thinking about what they need, their necessities and requirements, the things that they have to overcome, the perils that they face in day-to-day life, and most recently the amount of work they have to do. I see myself as inventing some fairies, and that is the thing that interests me the most, because I have this species of fairies now. I know how they are going to look. I imagine them very easily in my head before I make them, and it's the inventions that go with them that captivates me, that interests me, that challenges me. I think being an inventor in this sense is a little bit similar to being a storyteller. You're kind of inventing the narrative that runs with them.
So how much do you know about where you live? Well, there's one thing you can be sure of. We live in a truly creative kingdom.
The United Kingdom has a plethora of names for its local townsfolk. There's Cockneys, Brummies, Manx and Scousers. We've even got Ouija's. But why do we call people from Sunderland Mackhams? Well, back in the 19th century, Wearside was the shipbuilding capital of the British Empire. And if you weren't knocking a boat together, you were in the Navy sailing them off, meaning you were either a make 'em or a take 'em. Either way, when it came to seafaring, you just couldn't whack 'em. Proof once more that when it comes to creativity, innovation, and wearing it well, it's Sunderland Mint.
What better way to tell your pet that you care for them than with a pet blessing ceremony? STV Edinburgh follows the trail of pets and their faithful owners that takes us to Greyfriars Kirk, the Edinburgh church famous for the faithful hound that sat on his master's gravestone.
My name's Leslie Stewart and I'm the Associate Minister of Greyfriars Kirk. We've been having our annual pet blessing service, so all creatures great and small are invited to a short service where we recognise the part that pets play in our lives and we offer a blessing for people and their animals. We've been running this for 3 years now. Partly this is the sort of Feast of St Francis, and we're based here originally on a Franciscan friary. That's where our name Greyfriars Kirk comes from. But also we have this service in association with the Skye Terrier Association with Greyfriars Bobby, obviously the key connection there, so that's why there's so many Skye Terriers in the congregation as well. Lots of dogs, but a few cats as well, and lots of humans, and some humans even without pets that just wanted to come and be part of the service, or to remember pets that they've had before as well. So there is a poignant aspect to the service too.
It's becoming more and more popular, and more people are turning out because there's a lot of more people have pets than we realise.
My mum has been poorly here in Edinburgh, and the dog was originally my mum's, so I decided to bring Shona for to see my mum and to get blessed.
I really wanted them to have a blessing and be involved in worship and thankfulness. It was reminding us about the whole message about, you know, how we're caretakers and how by actually loving our pets we're loving God as well, which was just incredible.
How would you describe your look? Do you have a signature style? Well, we end this week's show with a trendy trip to Liverpool to reveal top tips and some fashion pet hates. Bay TV sent their style scouts into the city to go on the lookout for the latest vibe.
Well, mainly I only wear like t-shirts, band t-shirts, like things like jackass and stuff. All the colours, mainly like red, blacks, quite gothic, but other days I like colourful stuff as well.
I don't have one. It's literally just like constantly moving. I get so bored so easily, so every day I just kind of mix it up.
I try to stick with a lot of all black. I do love a bit of all black, and I'm really into my sportswear. I try and mix it up though so it stays a bit feminine. Hence, I love a good dress with DMs or trainers, that kind of thing.
Signature look, like a leather jacket, like shoes, white shoes, pair of jeans, and maybe a t-shirt.
This is quite posh for me. Normally I'm in metalhead clothing, so normally all black.
I like to wear high-waisted skirt or jean, skinny jean, and crop top, and a hat sometimes. Yeah, I like to wear a hat. I don't like joggings, I don't like baggies, I don't like all the large thing at the bottom, and
people who think they're better than someone else just for like how they dress, if you get what I mean. I feel like everyone should do whatever they want with whatever they're wearing. Just leave people to do it.
Mine's double denim, like even if it's black denim with blue denim, still hate it.
I mainly look at stuff through Tumblr and Instagram, and a few people on Facebook that I like their style of clothing.
I don't think I have a style on colour. I probably just see most of my style things from like walking past stores, like looking in the windows, or from Instagram or something when you follow like fashion accounts and things like that.
Rihanna maybe ever so slightly, I'd say.
I love A$AP Rocky though.
Yeah,
like
that kind of like vibe.
And that completes our bevy of local telly highlights. If you've enjoyed the show, there's more you can catch up with by visiting the local TV channels' websites. Or why not visit BBC iPlayer? Just visit bbc.co.uk/digital nation. Until next week, goodbye.